Hey guys, tonight we're slipping under woolen furs aboard a Viking longship, where the stars flicker above and the cold sea slaps rhythmically against the hull. The aurora borealis dances in silence overhead, and your fingers, numbed from rowing, finally find warmth in the folds of an animal skin blanket. You can smell salt, tar, and sweat. The men around you big, snoring shapes with beards like mossy boulders shift in their sleep. Boots still on, weapons nearby. You're part of the crew now. Congratulations. You'll probably get frostbite. You definitely won't survive a skirmish tomorrow. But for now, you're strangely comfortable. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Just don't say 3:00 a.m. in Valhalla, because we've already got a few of those. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your body sways with the ship. You're tucked between crates of dried fish and someone's stolen treasure chest. But the motion is hypnotic, more womb than war zone. The Norse believed in being prepared for anything. Enemy arrows, capsizing, sea serpents, but also naps. Real restorative ones. They didn't fight sleep, they welcomed it. And here on this boat, under the vast Scandinavian sky, it's easy to see why. Despite what modern pop culture tells you, Vikings weren't all axe-throwing maniacs howling at the moon. They were farmers, traders, poets, even lovers of quiet, and they understood the value of rest. Out at sea, the day's chaos died with the sun. Watches were split. Someone always kept lookout while others drifted into sleep, wrapped in sheepskins. The cold biting just enough to make a warm blanket feel like heaven. You shift onto your side and feel the deck creak beneath you, made from pine boards that have absorbed generations of footsteps and spilled mead. Your breath fogs in the crisp night air, but you're surprisingly warm. You're wearing layers of linen and wool, stitched by someone you probably love, or at least tolerate. The stars are so clear they almost hum. And overhead, the northern lights ripple a secret ballet just for you and the silent gods above. Historians still argue whether Vikings used sleeping shifts based on their social rank at sea. Some claim chieftains had better spots near the mast, with softer bedding. Others suggest the crew rotated by task, and sleep was taken in brief shifts, never fully relaxed, always alert. But what's certain is that Viking crews knew how to sleep under pressure. A half-dozen hours on a longship beat 100 in a feasting hall full of political scheming. And believe it or not, there's evidence that these hardy seafarers made room for comfort. Archaeological digs near old docks have unearthed objects like feather pillows and carved headrests, not what you'd expect from people with nicknames like Skull Splitter. One particularly quirky find, a small, beautifully etched wooden sleep token. Historians think it might have served as a charm to ward off nightmares, or seasickness, or both. You lie back and try not to think about that. Instead, you watch the breath of the man next to you, puffing gently like a content bear. Maybe his name is Eric. Maybe he's dreaming of fish stew, or Valhalla, or his goat. Eventually, the rocking motion and deep silence lull you under. The stars fade. Your dreams carry the scent of wood smoke and pine tar. You're no longer a modern human worrying about email and your phone battery. You're a crew member of the Norse world, half myth already. And for a few hours, nothing else matters. Out here, you learn what the ancients knew. When the body is tired and the soul untroubled, sleep comes easy, even in armor, even in danger, even when a sea monster might rise from the depths at any moment. So sleep, sailor. The wind's in your favor tonight. You wake up to the smell of smoke, not the sharp, biting kind that signals danger, but the gentle, lived-in scent of a longhouse hearth that's been burning all night. You stretch and find yourself not on a longship anymore, but inside a Viking home, long, low, and warm from within, even as the outside world remains stubbornly frozen. Welcome to your new bed. A scratchy straw-filled mattress tucked inside the communal heart of the village. This isn't some modern mattress store with memory foam and gel layers. Your bed is a wooden frame packed with straw, reeds, or hay, topped with a coarse woolen blanket. And if you're lucky or rich, you've got a bit of linen over that straw so it doesn't poke you in places that really shouldn't be poked while you're sleeping. You yawn, roll over, and try to ignore the goat sniffing your foot. See, sleeping in the Viking Age wasn't just about resting, it was about your place in the world, literally. Where you slept in the longhouse said everything about who you were. Chieftain? You've got a semi-private alcove, maybe even a small carved chest to keep your belongings. Thrall? You're curled near the door with the dog and a cracked spoon. Family matriarch? Center of the house, close to the fire. Some scholars believe that Viking longhouses even had designated platforms on the walls, raised wooden benches lined with skins for sleeping. Convenient, cozy, also great for eavesdropping. Historians still debate whether these bed platforms were communal or reserved for elites. Some suggest entire families would sleep side by side in a row, not unlike sardines. Others argue for more separation, at least for guests or high-status individuals. But there's no question sleep here wasn't private, not even remotely. The walls are made of wattle and daub, sticks and mud, essentially, and everything creaks just a bit when the wind howls. But the insulation's not bad. You can actually feel the warmth of the central hearth radiating outward, seeping into your bones. It's no modern HVAC system, but it's consistent. And in a Scandinavian winter, consistency is everything. There's a rhythm here. Dinner is over. People lie down not all at once, but gradually. Conversations trail off like campfires smoldering. An old man mumbles about a dream he had, something about a raven speaking in riddles. A child giggles, gets hushed, then immediately starts snoring. Someone's knitting. Someone's whittling. Someone's softly weeping for a husband lost at sea. And you're drifting off, nose full of wood smoke and wool grease. You probably noticed the lighting, or rather the lack of it. There are no torches burning late into the night. That would be wasteful and honestly dangerous. Instead, it's twilight indoors, flickering and orange. And once the fire burns low, you're left with natural darkness, deep, complete, and humbling. And guess what? Your circadian rhythm loves this. No phones, no neon, no late-night screens scrolling, just firelight, silence, and stories murmured in the dark. This is the kind of sleep that resets your brain, the kind that lets you dream in full color. You don't even need a sleep app. You're surrounded by warmth, routine, and the occasional chicken feather floating down from the rafters. Now don't get too romantic. Viking longhouses were smoky. Thatched roofs dropped dust in your mouth. And yes, fleas were a thing. One fringe theory even suggests that Norse straw beds may have served a double function: sleeping surface and flea trap. Basically, you'd fill the bed with pungent herbs, lavender, thyme, maybe juniper to keep the little monsters away. Whether this worked or not, historians still argue. But it's comforting to imagine that even in a brutal age, people made an effort to sleep better. And speaking of efforts, bedding was serious business. High-status families often passed down pillows and blankets as heirlooms. Some were embroidered with runes or family crests, turning them into literal bedtime stories. You adjust your position and notice a scratchy bit of cloth near your cheek. Someone stitched a rune into the corner. Maybe it means protection, or don't snore. Outside, the cold presses in like a curious spirit, but inside, it's all warmth and human noise, the soft kind, the ancient kind, the kind that makes your eyelids grow heavy even now. And so you close your eyes. You're no longer a guest here. You belong to this longhouse, to this night, to this breath shared with dozens of souls trying to do the same thing, sleep and survive, and maybe, just maybe, dream of a better spring. You stir awake to the low murmur of a voice chanting near the hearth. Not loud, not intrusive, just a rhythm, soft and slow, like someone rocking a cradle with their words. It's a prayer, or maybe a lullaby, offered to Frigg or Thor or the shadow spirits believed to live in the corners of the room. You breathe in deeply. The air is heavy with the scent of wood smoke, tallow, damp wool, and something faintly sweet mead, perhaps still lingering from supper. This is bedtime in the Viking world, and it's not an afterthought. It's a ritual. Before lying down, you noticed how deliberately the family moved through the evening. Beds were fluffed, not in a Martha Stewart way, mind you, but by hand flipping straw and brushing off dirt. The fire was banked with fresh coals, covered just enough to smolder through the night. A bowl of water was placed near the entrance, some say to welcome spirits, others say to deter them. Historians still argue about the precise meaning, but the gesture itself is real and rooted. And then comes the mead. Warm, rich, and slightly fermented, it's passed around in carved wooden cups. 1 sip, 2 sips, maybe more if the bees were generous that year. Mead takes the edge off not just from the cold, but from the worries of the day. Broken tools, bad omens, that one cousin who keeps challenging everyone to wrestling matches after dinner. With bellies warm and bodies finally still, the room slows. Woolen cloaks are pulled up, boots are removed and arranged near the wall, always facing outward just in case someone needs to run out quickly. You lie back on your straw bedding again and listen. You're not alone in your rhythm. Outside, sheep shuffle in the pen. A cow sighs. The world exhales. The Norse took sleep seriously, not just as recovery, but as a liminal state, a place between the living and the dead. Dreams were signs, portents. Some believed that when you slept, your soul wandered the 9 realms. That might explain why a respected seer in your village once woke up insisting that Loki had stolen her socks. In these quiet hours, people told stories meant to blur the lines between real and unreal. You hear one now, drifting in and out of focus. It's a tale of a man who slept for 3 nights straight after kissing a stone shaped like a wolf's face. When he woke, he spoke only in rhymes. His wife said it was an improvement. You smile. You're not even sure if you're fully awake anymore. A fringe theory, one not all historians accept, suggests that the architecture of longhouses was intentionally designed to support communal rest. The low ceilings kept heat in. The heavy timber walls muffled wind and created an auditory cocoon. One researcher described the longhouse as a sleep engine, a kind of acoustic and thermal shelter designed not just for survival but for softness. It's a compelling idea, though. Others say it's just a lucky byproduct of trying not to freeze to death. You shift under your blanket, which smells a little like smoke, a little like lanolin, and a little like the woman who stitched it. And here's a fun detail. Many Norse households used their cloaks or tunics as sleep covers. Multi-use fashion. Layered, scratchy, and 100% biodegradable. One of the more surprising facts, Vikings probably didn't sleep completely naked. That's a Hollywood thing. In reality, most people wore under tunics or linen night clothes, or simply their day clothes. Loosened and unbelted, you reach down and feel the coarse weave of your own shirt. Soft in some places, stiff in others. But comfort wasn't about plush, it was about familiarity. The final thing you hear before you drift again is a whisper. Not to you, but from one parent to another, deciding whether to tell the kids that a neighbor's boat came back today without its crew. But even that thought fades quickly, replaced by the pop and hiss of the fire. Because tonight is sacred, and sleep is safety for just a little while. The fire's gone low again. The glow is faint, flickering orange along the rafters like the last breath of a tired day. You're not entirely awake, not entirely dreaming, just hovering somewhere between the weight of your woolen blanket and the pull of another realm entirely. Someone mutters a name in their sleep. Another rolls over with a grunt. And you lie still, listening, half wondering if Odin himself is going to lean down through the smoke hole and whisper secrets in your ear. You're in a time when dreams aren't silly distractions or random brain noise. They're messages, tools, warnings. The gods don't use post-its, they send images in your sleep. One dream might mean a good harvest. Another might tell you which direction to sail. And sometimes they don't mean anything at all, just your soul wandering the world, while your body snores softly next to a barrel of pickled herring. The Norse had an entire vocabulary for sleep-related experiences. Drömmar for dreams, Svefen for sleep, and the line between sleeping and dying? It was blurry, very blurry. Some sagas describe sleep as a little death one you return from, unless you're truly unlucky, which, let's face it, you might be. You're still lying within sword's reach of someone named Bjorn the Flatulent. But it's not just superstition. Norse people were highly attuned to what sleep could reveal. If you dreamt of wolves, it could be a warning of betrayal. If you saw a ship, perhaps it meant a journey or that someone close was about to pass. Historians still argue whether people recorded these dreams or simply remembered them communally, through story and song. But dream interpretation was a thing, a serious thing. And then there were the sleepwalkers. Oh yes, the sagas mention people who wandered at night, eyes open but minds elsewhere. A warrior who walked out into the snow, barefoot, chanting to the moon. A mother who braided her child's hair perfectly in her sleep, never awake for it once. One fringed tale talks about a boy who built a miniature ship entirely while dreaming, then forgot about it by morning. Scholars scoff, of course, but the villagers? They believed. You turn over and press your face into the pelts. They're soft, warm from your breath. The air above them is chillier, just enough to make you appreciate the weight of the blanket, the closeness of the ceiling, the echoing silence of the house. You feel suspended in time, in tradition, in the thick hush that only exists when everyone else is dreaming too. Every now and then someone hums, just a few notes. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a protective charm. Maybe it's the ancestor of that one guy who sings to himself in the dorm bathroom. Either way, the sound fades. You notice that carved beams above your head bear little marks, runic scrawls etched into the wood. Some say these were placed to protect sleepers from night spirits, or trolls, or the mare, a supernatural creature believed to ride sleeping people like horses, giving them nightmares. Yes, that's actually where the word nightmare comes from. One particularly weird belief? To prevent bad dreams, some Norse would place an iron knife under the bed, or a bowl of oats, or wait for it, a sprig of mistletoe. Romance? Not exactly. Mistletoe was thought to confuse spirits or distract them long enough for you to fall asleep untouched. You think of that as your eyes start to close again. If you dream now, would it be of fjords and feasts or of strange beasts in the sky? Would you wake with answers or only more questions? Outside, the wind picks up. Snow brushes against the thatched roof like fingers trying to find a way in. But you're safe here. You've done your rituals. You've had your mead. You've muttered a charm under your breath, even if it was just "Please don't snore again, Eric." And so you drift again into that shared Viking slumber where gods whisper and dreams matter, where the line between story and reality softens like firewood collapsing into coals. Your feet are warm. That's the first thing you notice. The second is that someone's elbow is in your ribs, and there's a piglet sleeping near your head. You crack one eye open, it's still night, or what passes for it in these northern lands, but the fire's down to glowing embers, and the longhouse is wrapped in that strange hush that only happens when every single person is asleep. Well, almost everyone. A baby whimpers softly nearby. A woman rustles, whispers something soothing, and the sound disappears into the thick wool of the night. You roll onto your back and take stock of your surroundings. 10 bodies in view, a couple of goats, the family dog snoring like a tiny thunderstorm, and right across from you, someone sleepily scratches their belly and rolls over. His foot flops onto yours. Again. This is what Viking sleep looked like, intimate, not just emotionally, but physically. Entire families slept in the same shared space, from grandmothers to toddlers. If there was enough room to stretch out without kicking someone in the face, you were either rich or lucky. And if you had a door to yourself, you were basically royalty. Historians still debate how much livestock shared these spaces. Some argue that only in winter, animals like pigs or sheep might be brought indoors for warmth, effectively turning the home into a barn. Others think the animal proximity was exaggerated in later romantic accounts. Still, evidence of mixed-use living spaces in Norse longhouses is pretty clear. So yes, that piglet? Historically plausible, and also surprisingly cozy. You try not to think about the smell. But it wasn't just about keeping warm. This kind of communal sleep fostered a sense of closeness, emotional, cultural, practical. Children heard sagas as bedtime stories. Parents whispered nighttime lessons about gods and ancestors. Secrets were passed along in the dark, stitched into the quiet, remembered like dreams. One particularly quirky practice? People sometimes talked in their sleep, and it mattered. If someone said something strange or prophetic during their slumber, it might be interpreted as a message from the gods. Waking someone mid-sentence? Risky. What if they were mid-vision? Better to let them finish, and maybe make a note of what they said about the chicken turning into a woman who foretells storms. You shift again, nestling into your spot. It's amazing how little space you need when you're used to sharing. There's no such thing as a master bedroom here, just slightly better corners. And the fire? Always central, always tended. One person, usually a parent. Sometimes the eldest stayed half awake to ensure the embers didn't go cold. Fire was life. Fire was everything. Letting it die in the night wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous, even shameful. You hear the rustle of someone adding a log, the tiniest clink of a poker against stone, and then quiet again. There's a comfort in this closeness. You're not isolated. You're not alone in a dark room scrolling a glowing rectangle. You're not checking tomorrow's to-do list or doom scrolling through someone else's vacation photos. You're just here, breathing in sync with others, bound not by algorithms but by tradition. Modern people might cringe at this arrangement. No privacy, no sound machines or blackout curtains. But here, in the heart of a Norse home, sleep wasn't a solo event. It was woven into the structure of life. Families rose together, worked together, and yes, dreamed together. That's something no memory foam can give you. One fringe theory, by the way, suggests that dreams shared in close quarters could influence each other like emotional osmosis. A family grieving might have collective dreams of a lost member. Lovers sleeping nearby might find their dreams entangled, as one saga hints. Is it mystical, or just the effects of shared rhythm, sound, and smell? Historians still argue. What's certain is this: you've never felt more part of a world than you do now, swaddled in animal skins, shoulder to shoulder with a snoring carpenter and a sheep that smells vaguely like turnips. So sleep on. There are no walls between you and your people, no locks, only the quiet hum of breath, the weight of ancient slumber, and the warm press of another dreaming soul just inches away. Your eyes flutter open, but it's not morning. It's somewhere in the in-between, when the longhouse is neither fully asleep nor fully awake. The embers still pulse, the air hangs heavy with breath and ash, and a cold draft curls around your ankles. Someone's already up. You hear a soft creak of wood, a cup being lifted, the faint crunch of dried meat. Congratulations, you've stumbled into one of history's most fascinating sleep secrets. The first and second sleep. That's right. People in the Viking Age didn't always sleep in one long, unbroken stretch like we try to force ourselves to do today. Instead, many followed a pattern of biphasic sleep, two separate periods of rest, divided by an hour or two of quiet, peaceful wakefulness. You're now in the middle of that gap. The Norse didn't have clocks, but their bodies knew. After 4 or 5 hours of deep sleep, people naturally stirred. Not all the way awake, but enough to think, reflect, and even chat. Some might pray. Others might sip mead. Some might. Well, let's just say intimacy was popular during this window. You, however, settle for a piece of cold bread and a sliver of goat cheese. Good choice. Keep it PG. You sit quietly. Around you, a few others rustle. No one speaks loudly. There's no need. It's a soft time, a secret time. The fire pops. A mother gently rocks her child. Someone stares into nothing, lost in thought, or maybe still halfway in a dream. Historians have unearthed evidence of this two-sleep pattern from various medieval sources, but Norse sagas hint at it. 2 references to waking between sleeps or the hour between night breaths. There's even one quirky tale about a farmer who claimed to receive nightly instructions from a squirrel during these intersleep moments. Historians still argue whether that story is metaphor, madness, or just a really vivid midnight snack hallucination. You notice how natural it feels. Your body isn't panicked. You're not checking the time or worrying about how many hours are left before sunrise. You're just being, drifting between states, present without pressure. If only modern life could learn from this ancient rhythm. You lie back down. Someone beside you murmurs, "I saw Freya in a dream. She gave me a comb." The comment goes unanswered but not ignored. Dreams here matter. They're logged in minds, shared at breakfast, sometimes carried for years. This second sleep you're about to drift into? It's often when dreams become vivid, even prophetic. The first sleep heals the body. The second one, they believed, might just touch the soul. Outside, frost creeps along the ground. A soft wind murmurs through the turf and thatch. Somewhere, a rooster is confused and lets out a single pitiful crow. Not yet, buddy. You pull your cloak tighter. A fringe theory suggests that this intersleep period was used for low-effort productivity, stoking fires, checking on animals, or mending torn garments by firelight. One woman in a saga reportedly wove an entire half-cloak during her wakeful nights. Whether that's true or poetic exaggeration, we'll never know. But even now, someone in your longhouse is patching a sock. You can hear the needle thread through wool, This time is precious. No rush, no performance, just a world suspended between effort and rest. You yawn again, settle deeper into your furs, and feel the second sleep pulling at your mind. Slower this time, softer, like sinking into a warm sea. Thoughts blur. The flicker of fire becomes a blur behind your eyelids. You dream this time of rowing through clouds, of your childhood home filled with snow, of a golden fox that speaks in riddles. Is it nonsense or a sign? It doesn't matter. You've tapped into something ancient, something your ancestors trusted. 2 sleeps, 1 night, a rhythm lost in our bright, buzzing age but still alive here, in the hush between dreams. When you wake again, it's to the sound of wind howling like a wolf across the snow. The longhouse groans, slightly timbers flexing, the thatch roof shivering under a layer of ice. You're not just sleeping through a storm, you're living through it. Winter in the Viking world isn't just cold, it's punishing. Days shrink to slivers of gray. Nights stretch on like lazy giants, slow and crushing. And when a true storm rolls in, you don't just hear it, you feel it in your chest, like thunder trapped inside your ribs. But the magic is this: you're warm, you're still, buried under layers of pelts and thick wool. Your body sinks into the insulating straw beneath you, as the heat of a dozen nearby sleepers radiates outward like a living furnace. This isn't just surviving the night, it's mastering it. The Norse knew that to endure winter, you didn't just need food and fire. You needed rest. Deep, rhythmic, undisturbed sleep that could outlast a blizzard. You pull your cloak tighter and let your eyelids sag. Outside, snow claws at the turf walls. But inside, it's a lullaby, soft and steady, like someone shaking a rattle just far enough away to soothe, not startle. Historians believe Viking longhouses were particularly well suited to this kind of slumber. Their construction was genius. Thick turf insulation, low ceilings to trap heat, and central hearths that smoldered quietly through the night. Some even had built-in smoke ventilation systems, so families weren't slowly roasted by their own fire fumes. Smart, smoky, slightly carcinogenic, but smart. And here's the quirky part. There's evidence that during intense winter storms, Vikings sometimes took what modern researchers call torpor naps brief, almost trance-like states triggered by cold and darkness, kind of like mini hibernations. You didn't go fully under, just low power mode. Blink, breathe, dream, repeat. And yes, the Norse knew the value of staying in bed. You'd think such hardy, battle-hardened people would scoff at the idea of sleeping in. But during winter, it was expected. There wasn't much daylight to waste. Most labor paused. Farming was off the table. Raiding, not unless you were suicidal or Icelandic. So what did you do? You slept. You told stories. You sharpened blades and rewove clothes. And when the storm howled like it's doing now, you simply stayed in bed. There's a word in Old Norse, kyr. It means stillness, calm, quietude. It wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Sometimes the bravest thing a Viking could do was stay inside, stay warm, and let the storm burn itself out. Of course, not everyone agreed. Some fringe accounts mention restless souls, usually younger men who'd sneak outside during storms, hoping for signs or visions. One tale tells of a boy who walked naked into the snow and returned claiming to have seen the world tree, Yggdrasil glowing in the frost. He caught pneumonia, but still cool story. You shift a little, the straw crinkles beneath you. Your breath mists above your face before fading into the gloom. The fire's just embers now, but it's enough. The air inside this space is humid with sleep and wool and life. You can almost feel your heartbeat slowing to match the rhythm of the night itself. And somewhere, someone is singing softly. Not a song with words, just a hum, half memory and half melody. It swirls through the longhouse like smoke, curling through dreams, tugging at the edge of your awareness. Maybe it's for a child, maybe it's just tradition, maybe it's for the dead. Because here's a sobering note. In winters this long, not everyone wakes up. Elderly relatives, newborns. The sick, they slip away quietly, wrapped in furs, their last breath mingling with the steam of morning porridge. Sleep in this place isn't guaranteed to end. You hold onto your blanket just a little tighter. But the beauty, the real beauty, is that even in the face of that reality, people still sang, still rested, still trusted sleep to carry them through the longest, darkest nights of the year. And tonight, so do you. Let the wind rage. Let the snow pile high. Inside this house of timber and turf, beneath pelts worn smooth by generations, you are warm, you are tired, and you are held by a silence that feels like love. You're not sure how long you've been asleep. The world outside hasn't changed much. It's still dark, still cold, still utterly quiet in that heavy way winter has of pressing down on everything. But inside, your body feels different, looser, slower, like your muscles have forgotten what it means to rush. Welcome to the deep winter rhythm, what modern researchers call seasonal dormancy, but what the Vikings just lived through without naming. When the Arctic cold settles in for months at a time, and the sun only limps across the horizon for a few pale hours a day, your entire body shifts into a different mode. And sleep? Sleep becomes your closest companion. You blink. It's hard to tell if you're still dreaming. Maybe you are. The longhouse is so dim now, you can't see the other sleepers, only hear them. The slow, steady inhale and exhale of people letting their bodies surrender to the season. In winter, Vikings didn't fight the dark. They joined it. They let the long nights stretch their sleep. They let their minds wander with the sagas and their bodies soften into slowness. Historians have even speculated that Viking sleep cycles in the coldest months resembled mild hibernation, multiple naps, longer hours in bed, and much slower waking periods. A kind of full-body chill out. You sit up slowly, pushing the heavy fur away from your chest. The air is cold enough to bite your skin, but not enough to rush you. You're not going anywhere. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow either. Some fringe sources suggest that Norse communities marked the winter months with a different sense of time, not the rigid day and night we know, but a more fluid sense of light time and rest time. You ate when there was fire. You slept when there wasn't. You moved when the weather allowed. You didn't push against the season, you folded into it. You lie back down, watching faint beams of light sneak through the smoke hole in the roof. It's not even full daylight, just twilight trying its best, enough to make the dust in the air glow like ash from the gods. The stillness is overwhelming, but not in a bad way. It feels earned, trusted. In this season, sleep is more than healing. It's preparation. You're not escaping life. You're storing energy for when the snow melts, and the raids begin, and the crops beg for attention again. This is the pause before the sprint. And unlike us, who panic at the idea of doing nothing, the Vikings embraced it. They told long, winding stories during these days, ones that lasted over several nights. They carved, repaired, embroidered, taught their children riddles and runes, passed the time without trying to defeat it. And they slept, again and again, through the early dark, through midday naps, through snowstorms that silenced even the wolves. There's a kind of beauty in knowing you don't have to be on all the time. No productivity trackers, no urgent emails. Just a culture that recognized sometimes the best thing you can do is rest. Properly, completely, without guilt. And sure, there's the occasional snorer. There's still the lingering ache in your back from sleeping on straw. There's the goat that won't stop grumbling in its sleep. But despite it all, you're more rested than you've ever been in your life. There's something about this rhythm, this blend of darkness, firelight, and wool that resets something in you. You're not a Viking by blood, but in this moment, wrapped in stillness, you're part of something older than any lineage. You're part of winter. So close your eyes again. Let your breath slow. There's nowhere to be. Nothing to prove. No shoulds or musts clawing at the edge of your peace. Just sleep. Heavy, slow, unhurried. The kind of sleep that doesn't end when the alarm goes off, but lingers soft and ancient beneath your skin. You wake to the smell of iron and earth. Not blood. Don't worry though, that is where your brain went, isn't it? No, this is the scent of sharpened tools, oiled blades, freshly turned soil, and morning breath. It's early spring now. The snows have begun to recede, turning the frozen world into a muddy, squelching mess. But the light is back. The days are lengthening. And so is your to-do list. Time to stretch, time to raid, or plant, or mend the boat. But before you do any of that, you do something else first. You nap. Yep, because here's the thing about Viking sleep. It wasn't just for the night. It happened any time you could afford it. A midday nap wasn't laziness, it was strategy. The modern world treats sleep like a resource to hoard or conquer. But the Norse treated it more like weather. It came when it came, and if you were wise, you leaned into it. And so, after a long morning of preparing for travel or sowing new crops, you settle beside a fence or under the shade of a half-leaf tree and let yourself rest. No mattress, no pillow, just fur under your head, and maybe a piece of bark poking your shoulder. Still, within minutes, you're gone. Historians refer to these moments as polyphasic rest patterns. A fancy way of saying the Vikings knew when to take a nap. Soldiers, farmers, blacksmiths, even housewives, everyone took short rests throughout the day, especially before or after moments of intense labor or conflict. You might not think of Vikings as tactical sleepers, but they were. The sagas don't always spell it out, but between the lines there's napping, before battle, after long walks, during long boring council meetings, in a barn, on a ship, in the shade of a shield. Some warriors even practiced what scholars now call combat napping. No, really, falling asleep while seated, one hand on the hilt of your sword, eyes half-lidded but ears wide open, like the medieval version of sleeping with one AirPod in. One particularly quirky tale tells of a berserker who claimed he could fall asleep mid-meal and wake up mid-swing in battle. Did he really nap with a chicken leg still in hand? Historians still argue, but we really hope so. You yawn and stretch under the sun, feeling the cool breeze tug at your sleeves. You're rested enough to move, but you don't. Not yet, because you've come to realize something that modern life often forgets. Sleep isn't a failure to keep going. It's a decision to pause so you can continue. And the Norse knew that. They weren't just brutal. They were rhythmic. They lived by tides, by sun and shadow, by planting season and snow melt, and by the whisper of sleep when it called. The longhouse is quieter now during the day. Many sleep outside when it's warm enough. You spot a child curled up in a cart, a dog beside her. A farmer naps sitting upright, head tilted back, snoring toward the gods. No one mocks him, no one even notices. This is normal. It's said that Viking raiders often took naps on their ships between rowing stints, under sun or stars, cloaked in damp wool, surrounded by the splash of oars. Imagine sleeping through the creak of timber, the call of gulls, and the gentle thump of waves. You don't have to imagine, you've done it. Remember? That longship sleep? It's still with you, like a heartbeat echoing in the lull of the day. The world is waking up again. Fields need sowing, ships need tar, rivals need raiding. But you'll be ready, because you've slept. And not just a little, you've slept well. At night, during storms, in stillness, in darkness, and now in the quiet between efforts. So lie back down just for a few more minutes. No one will judge you. Not here. You open your eyes one final time, and something's different. The world is brighter now. Sunlight filters through the smoke hole like golden syrup, catching the floating dust in its beams. The longhouse is nearly empty, just a few late risers still curled under their furs, breathing slow and steady. Outside you can hear the soft murmur of spring, birds, hoofbeats in mud, the creak of a wheel somewhere. Life, starting again. But you feel no urgency to join it, because what you've just experienced, the rhythm of Viking sleep, isn't something to rush out of. It's something that lingers. You stretch beneath the blankets. Your body feels different now, rested in a way you didn't think was possible. Not just muscle deep, but marrow deep. Sleep in the Viking world was a full-body ritual, a restoration not just of energy, but of place. You were never just sleeping to survive the day. You were sleeping to return to yourself. You glance at the empty beds, straw scattered, blankets folded, some still damp with breath and warmth. You'll miss this, the quiet chaos of it, the closeness, the hum of other souls resting beside you, trusting the night to pass without claws. That trust? That's the real miracle. Despite living in a world with no alarms, no weather apps, no anti-snore pillows or vitamin supplements, the Norse built lives around balance. And nowhere was that more obvious than in how they slept. Not too much, not too little. They trusted their bodies, trusted the dark, trusted silence. Modern life tells you sleep is weakness, that if you rest too long, you're lazy, falling behind, missing out. But here, sleep was sacred, a place to listen for dreams, to honor the gods, to whisper goodbyes, to recover, prepare, and breathe in time with fire and frost alike. You walk slowly to the door of the longhouse. The light outside is soft, not glaring. You can see a child laughing, a woman braiding someone's hair, a man sharpening a blade, singing off-key. You smile. It's time to wake, yes, but not the jarring kind of waking, not with noise or stress or fluorescent lights, just a soft rising like a petal unfolding. One final fringe belief comes to mind. Some sagas tell of dreamers who could shape the day by how they woke. Step out on the wrong foot? Bad luck. Speak too quickly? Risk cursing the hour. But rise slowly with quiet eyes and a calm heart? The day might just bow to you. Historians still debate if that's real, but standing here now, it feels true. So you take a breath, you listen, and then you step outside, rested, whole, and ready, knowing that you've slept not like a modern person chasing 8 hours of silence, but like a Viking, wrapped in noise, warmth, and the shared breath of a life well lived. And now, just lie still. Let your arms go soft at your sides, like ropes finally lowered from a mast. Let your breath slow not in gasps or gulps, but in long, even waves, like the tide brushing the shore of a forgotten fjord. You've walked with the Vikings, There's nothing left to do tonight. No battles to fight, no crops to sow, just the hush, the straw beneath you, the memory of someone humming near the fire. Let your jaw unclench, your brow unfurrow. There's no one to impress here, no one checking your schedule or judging your rest. Only you, and a night so ancient it remembers your name. If your thoughts try to return, gently let them drift, like mist across a lake, like footsteps fading down a snowy path, like a dream you don't need to hold on to. Because you're safe here. You're warm. Sleep well, my friend.